Hey, everybody, and welcome to the 49th week of the Free Assange Vigil. My name is Andrew Smith, and I'm joined by my co-host, Steve Poikinen. Today is day 3,475 since the start of the illegal and arbitrary detention of Julian Assange. It is 429 days since he was trafficked out of the Ecuadorian embassy to a Belmarsh prison following a $4.2 billion IMF loan to the nation of Ecuador. It is 86 days until the second phase of Julian Assange's rendition hearing takes place. We have 1,106 days in federal incarceration for Reality Winner. But in good news, it is 92 days since the 10-year-long WikiLeaks grand jury ended and Chelsea Manning was released from federal prison. Today with us, we have two very special guests, Niko+House and Reverend Annie Chambers. But first, I will kick it over to you, Steve. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm sore. I feel old. I'm 42, right? But I feel like I'm 178. I feel like goddamn osteoporosis is kicking in. I'm a hunch over like my grandma used to. It's rough. It's rough being me. It is.
You're the only person I've ever heard use the word osteoporosis outside of a commercial.
Really?
Thought it was a house for a long time because I've never heard anyone.
It might be. I could just be making shit up right now. I don't know. How you doing, Niko?
I'm doing well, man. You know, I'm surviving and thriving as best as I can in these crazy times. But it's crazy because I've been in jail before, and you really realize what drives you crazy in jail once you're in a situation similar to like what you're in, right? So I can go out, like you can go on a yard, but like you're still trapped within. Like you can only go within the area. You're in your house, and no matter how many, no matter how comfortable you may make your cell, it's still a cell, right? And that's actually been the hardest for me to deal with throughout the entire pandemic. It's just you feel like you're trapped, and then you just get, they allow you to leave to the yard every now and then, but other than that, it's just you just feel kind of trapped. That's why, like I said, I was never really upset whenever I saw people protesting to end the quarantine, because there's it causes a lot of mental health breakdowns when you can't really distract yourself the way that people are accustomed to.
And this is a country that really, really needs a mental health well check. I know we got short time with Reverend Annie, so I definitely want to bring her in too. Reverend Annie's out in Baltimore. She's feeding people right now. We're very, very happy to have her here. Andrew, if you could unmute her, please. And Reverend Annie, how's it going? It's good to see you again.
How you doing, Reverend?
Hello.
What you got going on today?
Well, what's going on today, Reverend?
Well, we're giving out food. We're going to have a demonstration by 1:30, 2 o'clock. Right now, we're doing the food distribution. We just 1,000 things go on at one time in this struggle. We're still fighting.
That's why we love you, and that's why we're happy that you're here today.
And I'm still getting them help. No, ma'am.
Yeah, for the people who are watching right now who may not be familiar with you, could you kind of give us a little bit of backstory about who Reverend Annie Chambers is?
Well, Reverend Annie Chambers is basically one of the people in the struggle. I've been fighting for over 60 years now. I'm 78 years old, and I've been fighting for 60 years and trying to make a change. We're going to make a change. This is the beginning of the revolution. We're in a spiritual revolution. Not that and Reverend Chambers, I want everybody to know, don't call me up and talk about nonviolence, because I live in a violent society. This country is violent. So I have to continue in the struggle, in the fight. And so I've been around a long time. I worked with Minister Malcolm, my best friend Fidel Castro, one of my very best friends, and I marched with Dr. King, helped started the first Poor People's March. So we still in the struggle. I'm still here struggling, and to make change and make a difference for people. But we said no more. We won't take any more.
Yeah, I got all that. Let me make
You're muted, Steve.
The first time you were on my show, Reverend Annie, you said the Poor People's Campaign needed some actual poor people in it. Is that something that you see happening now? Like, is that because I'm so far removed from Baltimore, Maryland?
There's a conference going on today, and unfortunately, I couldn't participate in it because that's what I was going to tell them. But I did tell Reverend Barbara, and I did tell some of the other poor people campaign people, they need some real poor people in the campaign, not people that's going to be talking. But we really need some real poor people in the campaign. So we're asking them, just like this whole country is doing, we're asking them to listen also. And this is us, this is the listening. If not, we're gonna keep on going. We'll step all over top of them. We'll step all over them. If they don't, you get in our way, we're gonna move you out. We're gonna get you out. And we're gonna step all over you. If you don't move and move with us, then this is a revolution. And whatever, we're gonna continue to fight. So we're asking that they listen. Hopefully Reverend Barbara and them listen, and they get some poor people. I know by Monday, because the conference will be over with today, and I'm gonna talk to welfare rights and some of the other people that's there participating. But unfortunately, I couldn't be there because I gotta do what I gotta do here in making change. I'm not one of them people that sit down and do nothing but talk. I gotta be at the action. Okay?
Nico, you look like you really had something to say back there for a minute. I saw your eyeballs go and I saw your mouth move. You jump in anytime you want, man. This fucking...
Look, I was letting her
keep my organizers on point, because sometimes, things get out of whack. I try to make sure everybody gets the same thing. Everybody gets what they need to be getting.
So I don't know if y'all know, but I graduated from UNC. And so Reverend Barbara's Poor People's March, it's in North Carolina a lot. And I've attended a few of them. And that was actually one of the things that I had talked about, not really out loud because there wasn't a lot of people like me there. But it was something that was glaring, was like there weren't a lot of poor people at the Poor People's Campaign. And I didn't think anybody else had noticed it. But, in the Triangle, it's a very upper middle class type of area, especially around Chapel Hill area. It's one of the richest neighborhoods in the country. And it's sad because I feel like that's actually pretty emblematic of what we've been seeing to a certain degree with the protests. I feel like a lot of people have kind of co-opted what's been going on. They've been trying to pat themselves on the back more so than reach out to the people who are most afflicted by the police brutality that we have seen in the historic systemic racism that we've seen in this country, and elevate those voices. And that was actually a request that I made at the very beginning of all of this. I saw where this was going, and I know how this usually ends up. And it usually, unfortunately, ends up where white people use an opportunity like this to promote themselves as the good guys, right? As the white saviors or the white knight. And just like what Reverend Annie says, like this was like the Poor People's Campaign needs those who have been afflicted by poverty. That this movement that we have been seeing brewing when it comes to police brutality must include those who have been most afflicted by police brutality historically. And I feel like that's something we've been lacking in.
I think that's a really, really good point. And it's a really good example of ways that we can help bring people together. Because police brutality, it may not be something that directly impacts everyone, but it's something that grows into larger issues. So being able, as like a white male, to recognize that there's another portion of society that's struggling, and then try to view it from their perspective and then approach them with like, hey, how can I assist in this? Instead of, hey, here's this idea that I have as someone that's not directly impacted. It goes a lot further to be, I don't know, humble in situations like this and try to actually understand what that person's saying and what's going on.
Yeah, I 100% agree, man. It's and like you said, it does spin off into a bunch of other issues. Like so it's interesting because I've noticed this throughout history that every issue that Black people have been afflicted by first, or at least dominantly, eventually trickles up to everybody else, right? So whether it be poverty, so depending on what side of the fence you were on in the 20s when the stock market crashed, there's one thing that's for certain: Black people were unable to find work. Whoever was afflicted by the Gilded Age in the late 1800s, early 1900s, the Black people were afflicted more so. If your kid was working for dimes, my kid was working for pennies. And then what happens? The stock market crashes. But if you were looking and paying attention, you could see the buildup to the stock market crashing if you look to your community's most vulnerable. And that's what we're looking at with police brutality. People are so surprised how the police are treating peaceful protesters. And I'm like, I don't know why we're surprised by this. Black people have been trying to explain to y'all how we've been historically treated by police forces over not even just the last 10 to 15 years, but before that. And y'all didn't want to hear it. But now more white people are becoming poor and impoverished than ever before, really. And because of that, they're getting, the cities that are going through the struggles that are brought about by NAFTA and other disastrous trade deals and the removal of coal from, as being a dominant resource. Like, all these cities are now having a bunch of poor people. What do the states and the cities do to compensate for that? They build private prisons. Well, to build private prisons, you need a police department that can put people there. So you got to get the police department. You hire more cops. The cops have to put people in those prisons. And if you have an all-white town, who do you think is going to end up there? Not the rich people in your town. So this is what brown and Black communities have been experiencing for generations. Now it is and we've been trying to blow the whistle. Now it's catching up. So like you said, these issues do trickle back up, but it would help prevent a lot of the outcomes that we have seen lately if people would pay attention to their communities most vulnerable when they're crying out, rather than when it's a good photo op or a good PR campaign.
That's something that pisses me off to no end. And this is my personal experience, and this has been in the drug war. Since I was a kid, I was, on the front lines of the drug war, and I'm a fucking white dude from the middle of Indiana. Like, what the fuck should I know about that, right? But when I was like 16, man, I'm sitting there trying to tell people, like, okay, look, there's proof. We have proof that the drug war was started to go after the Black community and anti-war protesters, most of whom were poor fucking white kids. So we've got it on paper who the targets are. If you don't notice until middle America starts to develop either a drug problem or a series of arrests, it's your fucking fault for having your head up your ass. Because there have been people that have been screaming about this for an entire generation. And it's incumbent on people to listen to, I don't know, listen to the people who have been directly affected by this for much, much longer, because they've got the experience, they've got the know-how to deal with it, and they've got, entire communities of people that have been affected by this. And if you're not on board when it doesn't affect you, then I don't have a lot of trust in why you're on board now.
Exactly. And then it goes back to, just when we're talking about the importance of what Julian Assange brought to the table, it goes back to journalism, right? You have to be aware of the problem in order for you to find a solution. And what we have seen is a suppression of certain type of real journalism. When we're talking about this issue of police brutality, this is something, y'all watch my show. This is something I've been talking about for years. I've even talked about my personal experience on this issue. And yet we still keep getting the same, to be honest, this is white bourgeoisie voices. That's just who they keep elevating to talk about this issue, as if it gives it, more prominence. But they don't even bring those voices on until after shit goes down. after we have a George Floyd issue, after we have an Eric Garner issue, after we have, you know, it shouldn't be after. When Trayvon, as big as that was, because that was like really on the cusp or the precipice of like what social media became, when that happened, that should have woke America up right there. And I get it wasn't police brutality, but like there was clearly an issue there. And nobody really wanted to address it because they could deflect, right? Oh, Zimmerman's a one-off, you know, but we know that Zimmerman wasn't really, I don't think Zimmerman was arrested on site, right? Zimmerman wasn't arrested on site like the people, the guys in Georgia. So same concept. However, we do know if it was in the reverse, if Trayvon would have killed Zimmerman and said it was for self-defense, Trayvon Martin would have been arrested on site, 100%, right? So once again, it just really goes back to how are we growing awareness? And then when you are made aware of the violence that we have seen, are you actually doing something about it? Are you speaking about it? Not, oh, I want to take credit for my white privilege. Like, bro, that's a little bit too late for that. It's a little bit too late to talk about some taking credit for white privilege. Like, we get it. I'm glad that some of y'all, but that's a conversation you have within yourself when you're being honest with yourself. You don't need to tell me you have white privilege. I know you have white privilege. I don't need to know that. I don't need you to talk on Twitter about that. I need you to get your ass out into the streets. I need you to go visit prisons, talk to people who have been victims of police brutality, talk to people who have been victims of not only police brutality outside of the prison, but the system of oppression and suppression that goes on within prison. Like, I need you to get educated. Don't just half educate yourself on one very specific issue that you're going to forget about in 4 or 5 months anyway, outside of the name of the person. Like, you have to actually educate yourself, get involved, and spread that awareness. But most of all, like I said, you got to elevate the people who are both afflicted by this issue. But what I've seen more than anything else, if I'm being 100% honest, is the elevation of themselves. Like, everybody in the media knows, in the independent media, I should say, they know what I've been through. They know me personally and what I've had to go through. I've been jumped in Burger King by police officers, been jumped at East Carolina University while splitting up a fight. And the two kids the fight that I was splitting up, they were fine. I was the one who got jumped. They held me down and cracked my tooth open. Like, they know what I've dealt with. And yet, none of them, even ones that I would consider my friends, have actually reached out to me while we're literally in the middle of the biggest police brutality protest era that I've seen, you know, that I've been alive for. So once again, are you trying to actually solve the problems? Or are you just trying to look like you care about solving the problems, which are two different things?
So I've been wanting to have this conversation. Hopefully we can pull Annie in for it too. There's a Twitter personality called Brother Q, and he says the white privilege conversation isn't the pathway to systematic change everybody thinks it is. It's a brick wall, if anything. In other words, if we just hold hands and wish real hard, we can Care Bear stare our way into post-racism. And that got me, you know, because where I live, there's a bunch of NPR liberals and then a bunch of like Bernie Sanders kind of progressives who really think that acknowledging the fact that they have white privilege is all it's gonna take. And I would like both Reverend Annie and you, Niko+House, to educate these motherfuckers on why that's not good enough.
Wow, Reverend Annie, I'd like you to go first.
Yeah, go ahead, Reverend.
Let me tell you something. The conversation ain't all you gotta have. You gotta first look within yourself. See, because there's people who have said to me, yeah, I got this, but it's not my fault that my grandfather did these things. It's not, I didn't do it. You didn't do it, but damn it, you enjoying it, and you still pressing it because you're a part of it. Anytime you can make deals on Wall Street and everywhere else, like that stupid person we got in the White House. I try not to cuss on your show today. There ain't even Sunday, but I'm trying to be good. But when we got our ass in the White House, and who sees nothing wrong with him get rich off the backs and the ill treatment, and then turn around and say, what are we upset about? You know, you can slap the hell out of me and say I'm sorry, but let me tell you, that ain't gonna be the end of it. So we gotta have the talk, but you also gotta be able to deal with the situation. You're gonna have the talk, but you're gonna be able to deal with the situation and what's going on. That's what we gotta do. And that is not happening openly. You know, no matter what. It don't matter. I'm not into them saying labels. You know, I don't like labels. Black people, white people, brown, we gotta come to this conclusion that we all people and that we all oppress people. And this is a class thing. And I keep telling people, if you sitting there with billions in your pocket and throw $1 million down, that don't do no good. It's just like the defunding of the police department and all this other stuff that they come up. Defund them. Hell no, rethink it. Redo it. We got a commissioner here, get paid $1 million and over. He don't have to pay no bills, no utilities. What the hell? Who is he? He didn't stop none of the crime. And I tell you, the root of the crime, touch the root of the crime, you're not going to be able to do anything. So that's what you call talking about the real problems. We do have to have the talk, and we got to have the action also. Okay?
No, I mean, I agree with that 100%. This is action for Assange, not let's sit around and talk about Assange. We went to DC in February. We're going back to DC in September. I really hope that we can get Reverend Annie and the People's Power campaign down again. It was great to have you guys in Arlington at Chelsea Manning and Jeremy Hammond's jail. Niko, if you can make it up in September, please. We're going to be there 3 weeks, man. Like, if you can come up for a day or two,
I'm pretty sure I can make it in one. Yeah, I can do that. 3 weeks. I'm gonna be there for 3 weeks. I can figure that out. Yeah.
But can I get a response from you on what Reverend Annie had to say?
Yeah. So you know how I feel. I think we talked about this in the past, but it's been a while since I talked about it, so I wouldn't mind bringing it up again. So basically, people. I like what Reverend Annie said, where she said this is a class war, and people have to understand that we are all being oppressed, but it manifests differently, right? But it's just like a car. You can say that the engine is class, right? Your car cannot run without that engine working. However, with that being said, you could say, if you want that, the tire or the alternator is racism. Your oil filter is sexism, your gas tank is, whatever you want to call it. No matter how well your engine is working, if you don't fix the alternator, which in this case would be racism, your car isn't going anywhere. It isn't. You can have the finest, most beautiful engine that the market has to offer. You can replace that engine 150 times. You got the best tires, the nicest paint job, the best electronic system. Guess what? Your alternator doesn't work. It's not going anywhere. And that's how we have to think about all these issues when we're talking about people who have been marginalized in specific ways, when we're talking about racism specifically, and when we're talking about classism. It has to be understood that racism is a symptom of classism. You don't just ignore a symptom. We don't ignore Donald Trump because he's a symptom of this economic turmoil and the racism, at least implicit racial bias that we have seen in this country. Like, you don't just ignore Donald Trump. You don't pretend like he is the only problem, but that doesn't mean you ignore him either, right? So we really have to learn that we can do two things at once, and we absolutely have to. right? If we want to see any type of significant change come about. And I think that we have been doing better. I think, like, I don't want to be too critical of the protests because, like, this is necessary, right? And the fact that people have been willing to put themselves in danger to promote the welfare of Black people and call out police brutality does speak volumes to where we're at in this country. And it does show that people are growing more and more selfless, where some people don't have the ability to articulate themselves well as to why they feel a certain way about an issue. They have instead decided, you know what, I don't need to talk about it if I can take my butt to the protest, put my body in front of a Black body that is being threatened by a cop, put myself in a dangerous situation where I can be tear gassed for standing my ground because of how important this issue is. And that's honestly, that's probably better than being able to articulate it, if I'm being completely honest with you. I'd rather we see more action because we already have enough talkers in this country.
So Ian has one of the volunteers out there working with Reverend Annie that wanted to say something. So I'm going to give him an opportunity to speak for a second.
Okay, dope.
Yeah, hi everyone. I just want to introduce you all to one of the fearless volunteers here, Brandon Walker. He's with the Eugenia's People's Progress campaign. You want to say a couple words, Brandon?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brandon. I'm with the Eugenia People's Progress Party. We are an independent Black worker-led political party looking to gain ballot status in the state of Maryland for poor and working class Black workers, particularly in the state of Maryland. And a part of that is building fight back programs, as you see here, that involves with food distribution, as well as community clinics, as well as community resources, community control of police, housing, education, healthcare, and utilities. Because most of all, we understand that the taxpayers and the voters base that are the most effective are the poor and working class.
Thanks. And can I just say, guys, just for a second, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear
This is
you.
Ian. I just want to say for everyone out there, just saying all you got to do is acknowledge your white privilege. No, you got to get off your ass and work your ass off because you have white privilege. Like, I don't stand out here every day on a Saturday. I could be going home playing video games all day. But if I don't do this, if I don't get out here and help Reverend Chambers, people aren't going to get fed. That's the reality of the situation we're in. If you guys don't take time on your day to do this show, no one's going to know about what's going on with Julian Assange and press freedoms. So everyone's just got to get active. Now's the time. This is a revolutionary time. It doesn't mean you got to grab a gun. It means you got to get off your butt and do something. That's all I got to say.
And that's
But potentially have a gun just in case.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of weapons, like, I'm a fan, you know.
Yeah, I'm all about the Second Amendment, but I'm not about part of the Second Amendment like a lot of people are. They're all about right to bear arms. I'm like, bro, first of all, that's like the beginning. We have the right to form well-regulated militias. Well-regulated militias, not police departments that can just kill without accountability. That's not the same thing as a well-regulated militia. In fact, in a well-regulated militia, even if we had them side by side, I guarantee you, quote-unquote, police departments would not act so recklessly when you have a community or a community-based militia full of men and women, which is what likely would be the case now, who are trained to use weapons. That is why we have the Second Amendment. It has been completely and utterly dismantled. It's another way, by the way, that we have been oppressed. And, that's one of those things that kind of went by the wayside. Oh, well, as long as I get to keep my pistol, I don't get to go shoot at the range. Meanwhile, we got a military that can drop a drone, can conduct a drone strike on any of our houses.
What I was really hoping, Deeco, in Michigan, we saw some of the biggest right-wing protests we've seen in a long time, to the point that there was literally armed people with guns that stormed the state house there. And I was hoping to see those people that took that level of energy against tyranny to do that and storm that state house, join the people in the streets fighting against police brutality. And it's literally just the left-right phenomenon of the internet. But one group will stand up and say, I want to strike at the heart of tyranny in this way, which is storming a state house so that way they have the right to leave their home, because Michigan was so insane with their lockdown laws. And then that same group insult another group saying, we want the right to live unabated without violence from police. And
it's okay. You guys know how I say we live in a fucking cartoon. Well, we live in a fucking cartoon because the exact same people that armed up and stormed the state capitol because they're like, we're not going to stand for this tyranny anymore, are like, hey, the cops should go beat the hell out of those guys. And they have no right to declare the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. And they're like, they go full metal bootlicker at the drop of a hat when there is something that doesn't coincide with their political ideology. And that kills me because what we're doing right here is post-partisan. We don't want your personal politics in here. We want to be able to fucking have a conversation that about, you know, free press, access to free flow of information, and the ability for us to, you know, have primary source documents and material that we can then digest and make a decision about without having anybody tell us what to think about it. Then we can talk policy, but we have to know first.
And so I covered this the other day. I said that the situation right now with Chauvin, really in police brutality in general, just really exposed both the left and the right. And they didn't realize it, of course, because they're all in their own little worlds, right? It's what they do. They keep us separated and dichotomized. But I said back whenever the protests started for, you know, the protest against the quarantine, which, by the way, if you actually understood what was going on in Michigan, people, you would know exactly why those people felt like they had to protest, because what's her name was going on a tear.
Gretchen fucking Whitmer.
Yeah,
right?
Gretchen
is that woman. And to provide a little background, Michigan was locked down to the point that you could not leave your house unless you were an essential worker. It was a your papers please state. You could not purchase anything aside from food, which included seeds, household products outside of cleaning supplies and toiletries. Like, it was the most authoritarian crackdown I think I've ever seen. It was literally, if you stepped outside,
which made no sense.
Right. And so people revolted against that specifically. It wasn't about, hey, we want to be able to make money for billionaires. It was, we want to leave our home and see our grandmother to make sure she's okay.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because what you immediately saw following was the media try and make it about, oh, they're just trying to get haircuts and they're just trying to get this and da da da. But the story that the media was not focusing on was the fact that Gretchen Whitmer had a damn barber arrested for just trying to make money, right? Because he has bills to pay. Like, the bills don't stop. As I said, 3 months ago or 4 months ago when this thing started, I said, I don't know what they think this eviction pausing is about to do. I don't know what, like, because it's going to come regardless. They're just going to stack 3 months of rent against you and say you better pay now or you're getting evicted. It's not going to change. And so these people are trying to make money. They're trying to, pursue their livelihood, make sure they can put food on the table. And Gretchen Whitmer was not allowing that to happen. So instead of focusing on that and the authoritarian nature that she was governing, it became about white supremacists somehow. It became about white people. And, oh, they're just so privileged in there. They just want haircuts. They want that. I'm like, I don't. And to be completely honest with you, that might have spun off from that barber being arrested. And then that message might have gotten co-opted by the media, that they were never really out there protesting for a haircut. It was like a quip, if you will, about the barber who had been arrested by Gretchen Whitmer. But I digress. Moral of the story is, I said back then, I was like, look, man, I may not agree with everything they're protesting for, but really, my situation in Florida is a little bit different than them in Michigan. So I'm really not really there to judge. However, you all leftists should be out there, not necessarily out there in solidarity if you don't agree with them, but you should absolutely be protecting their right and touting their right, because the left oftentimes forget that, yeah, we have a right to free speech, we have a right to assembly, we have a right to protest, but so do they. They have a right to bear arms on that Capitol, and we did as well. We just did not necessarily exercise it in this particular situation. But same thing for the right. When you are out there, weapons ready on the Capitol out there in Michigan, you should, if you were that concerned about looters, if you were that concerned that stores would be broken into, that black, all the people that all of a sudden are concerned about the livelihood of black business owners, that when they didn't care about gentrification, but now they care. You could have been out there with your weapons, making sure, look, you're not going to use this opportunity to break into black business. You could have been out there.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I just wanted everybody to see Ian in his sun hat for a second. No, I mean,
I
you're
saw him. I
absolutely
saw him
right.
with the bandana.
It's important to kind of give people some perspective that it's a-okay for fucking 12-pack of white dudes to arm up and storm the state capitol, but the only time in history the NRA supported a weapons ban was when the Black Panthers armed up and stormed the state capitol in California. That is why California had an assault weapons ban. It had nothing to do with the fact that there were like crazy stockpiling militia types. It was because the Panthers armed up and took the capitol. And look, man, like I've had conversations with Reverend Annie about this before. We need more of that. We need more people of color who are legal licensed gun owners to arm up and be a presence. Reverend Annie was the person who told me like you have to roll deep. You have to roll with at least 10 or 12 people at all times when you do this. Otherwise you make yourself a target. I know we've only got like 20 minutes left. So I'm gonna step back a little bit and hopefully we can just have a conversation. Niko and Reverend Annie, if I could just shoot the shit, chop it up. I gotta go get a beverage. I'm gonna be right back.
No problem. Actually,
Well,
Reverend
I think-
Annie, I had a question for you about the focus of I guess the focus of progress and what the focus should be. So I've been the type of person that's always said that our movement needs to be focused but decentralized. And I always think about the Black Panthers whenever I think about that, because you remember just how much they were doing in the community, how many issues they were tackling simultaneously back in the day. But there were leaders that were naturally elevated because of just their participation, but they weren't, selected or elected or deified like we have seen today. What do you think about that?
Can you say the last part again, honey? We
I was
outside.
saying that, no problem. I was saying that a lot of leaders today are selected or elected or deified, but back in the day when you're looking at the Black Panthers, our movements were focused but decentralized. So they focused on the issues, but not necessarily the leaders behind the issues.
But the Black Panthers being more decentralized. Just want to talk a little bit about the Panthers?
Yeah, well, see, the difference was that we truly was talking about survival and living, and now, and I'm gonna say this: everybody's setting up some kind of organization, trying to get some kind of money. Somebody is trying to appoint them. They in charge, and everything. So we have to be able to, really substantialize from them. When they ask me to come speak for them, I tell them no, and they want to know why. Because you ain't gonna pimp off for me, and you ain't gonna pimp off the people. We had our pimps in our day too. We had Jesse, we had Al, and we had Reverend Bowl, and a
couple of them in Congress.
Huh?
You have a couple of them in Congress now, huh?
Couple in Congress, he said.
Oh yeah, because we got my boy who's in Congress, who is truly hurting my. They call him Chairman Bobby now.
Oh,
And I'm
right,
talking
yeah.
about Bobby Seals. Bobby know I told him how I felt about him. And I really used to, and I still do. I still know what Bobby put up love and respect and did a lot and fought for the people, Bobby did a lot for the people, and he gave up a lot of his life. But this is an ongoing battle. This is an ongoing battle. And we got to continue to do it. So when I talked to Panthers who told me they were tired, I said, did you remember what the oath we took? And how can you be tired? Can you remember what we said? We are liberating people and liberating our people. So how do you be tired and the revolution ain't over with? How do you be tired and you're still being oppressed? You're still being killed. You're still being beat. How do you be tired? You cannot be tired. So I'm saying to people, no, don't Don't tell me how tired you are. I will fight you until I can't walk, talk, breathe, and when they lay me down. And damn it, if I can get up and throw some dust in your eyes, I will still do that. That's why I want to be cremated and spread my ashes down City Hall so I can blow in their damn eyes so they can, you know, that is my children know what to do with my ashes. Spread them down there so I can still fight the devil. But you understand, that we had a real mission. The original Panthers, we had a real mission, and a lot of people gave up a lot of their life, and some of us are still in prison until today. But we're still fighting. The difference is now we allow people to push a movement, push leaders. You can't do that to us. You can't push our leaders. You won't push on us who you want. That I like about this movement. We just got to get hold to the young people that they getting in the year of. Because when they ask me how do I feel about the people that broke in a store or something, I say I don't tell nobody how to fight the damn revolution. When your anger is all over the place. You do lots of things when you're angry. Reverend did a lot of things. And I ain't above taking some food right now. We in survival mode. That's why they brought me some, because I told them, damn it, we ain't gonna starve to death. We will take what we need. Minister Malcolm taught me that.
I'm glad you brought that up, Reverend Andy, because I feel like there has been this level of playing that blame game, right? Oh, yes. Well, why are they protesting if they're looting? I'm like, well, hold on. Aren't these people the same ones that have been out of a job for the last 4 months, the same ones who can't pay their bills? I would be stealing too if I could sell something to put some food on my table. You get what I'm saying? Like, I would steal food too. I would steal technology too if I could sell it online and make a little bit of change when I couldn't make any before. If we had dealt with poverty to the degree that that it should have been dealt with, given this quote unquote success of our overall country as far as wealth is concerned, then we wouldn't have people feeling the need to loot.
Right. That is so true. That is what I'm saying. I'm saying, you know what really made me feel good when I see those brothers and sisters that took over whole city blocks. That's what we need to be doing. That's revolutionary. That I felt, you know, if I could get to them, I sent a message though. I'm with you. You know, we know that this is what we're fighting for, change in our life, change in the survival of this society. We're gonna continue to fight. I'm so proud of them that they could take over blocks of a city. You know, all this damn peace talk ain't nothing. I ain't got no time for you to talk about some damn peace, and you got your knee on my neck killing me, but you want me to lay down there and holler peace? No. You want peace when I can get up and kick your ass. That's when you want peace. No, I don't want to give you no peace. I want to be treated fairly. I want human rights. That's what I'm saying. So for the ministers that say to me, oh, you're teaching hate, and I'm teaching struggle. I'm teaching revolution. I'm teaching what God told Joshua to do. Go take what you need. Go take it. That's what I'm teaching. That's what I'm teaching. So if that's wrong, then you take it up with the Lord. Okay.
Well, look, the Lord, even though he was
you know, that's what we got to do.
The Lord may have been a proponent of peace, but the Lord also he also, you know, did not tell you to put up, to not put up a fight for yourself or for what you believe in. And that's a lot of what people want to preach about peace in my humble opinion, it's out of a fear of personal well-being. If I'm being honest, right? People who feel like they can't defend themselves are also oftentimes the first to preach about peace. I've been put in situations where I've had to learn to defend myself, and I know that the people around me can defend themselves. But the problem is, the reason that we push peace to the side when we're talking about the potential for a revolution is because there have been so many people who have not been able to fight for themselves. The ones who are trampled on are the reason that the fighters say damn peace, because you don't give peace to the people who can't defend themselves. And then whenever the people who can defend themselves, who can fight for themselves, speak up, all of a sudden it's, well, let's try to handle this peacefully, right? No, we tried that, remember? But you didn't want to handle it peacefully when you thought you could be a bully. But now when it's time for you to get bullied, or hell, even have to fight an even fight, right? A lot of these people don't like that. They don't want to have to get scarred and bruised to fight for what they believe in, because they don't really believe in anything but themselves. When you're fighting for something greater than yourself, then you don't mind getting scarred and bruised to fight for something greater. But when you're fighting for yourself, you don't want to get beat up. You don't want to put your life on the line. Like I said, I've had a chip too. I've had my shoulder dislocated, my rotator cuff torn. Why? Because when that cop reached for my neck, I know my rights. You're not going to try to choke me out. Period. You can send 5, 6, 7, 8, but I know my rights, and I'm willing to die for my rights. That's just, not everybody is like that and I understand it, but that's how I am. Why? Because I've had my rights violated before, and to be honest with you, that hurts more than any bruise, any scar, any dislocation that I've suffered. I remember I was in tears when I had my tooth cracked and I was in jail. I was held down by 2, 3 cops, and why one beat me with the baton. And that's when my tooth chipped. And I had tears rolling down my eyes afterwards, but it wasn't because of my tooth being in pain. It was because I felt powerless. Like, I know what my rights are, but it doesn't matter. And I said, I've never had that shit happen again. I can guarantee you that. Because of the acknowledgement of your rights and the willingness to fight for them has to be put in the forefront of any revolution, any movement. When you're talking, I don't give a damn if we're talking about what we're talking about right now, police brutality, or the quote unquote horse race, as Steve likes to call it, when we're talking about politics. I know my vote is supposed to count, and you know me, ain't nobody gonna fight harder for my vote to count than myself. And everyone has to feel like that. And only when we realize, oh damn, our votes aren't actually being counted, will that revolution begin. But we are still kind of having to teach people how to fight for basic rights, let alone the right to vote, to put, make sure that piece of paper is counted. So I agree with Reverend Andy. The peace first, that conversation coming, because that's what really the problem is, right? It's coming first. It's like, oh, but let's be peaceful first. Oh no, damn all that. Maybe we can eventually get to that. Well, that's just your disposition. But I want to hear that coming first, second, third, or fourth at this point.
To piggyback off the topic of,
hey, yo, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we got a sign out here. We got the folks that you all know from the People's Power Assembly are here, and we're getting ready to march. So if you want to check out the march live, just go to the People's Power Assembly Facebook page, and I'll see you all over there. Thanks, all.
All right, Ian, man. Appreciate you, bro.
All right, take care.
Thank you, Ian. Give our love to Reverend Annie. Give her a big hug for me.
I certainly will. You take care.
Thank you, Ian.
So yeah, we got about 10 minutes left. Andrew, you were in the middle of saying something. You want to go ahead and finish that thought?
Yeah, the whole idea around this centric idea of peace, a lot of people don't really understand, and tying it back to like the whole let God judge you type thing. The idea of turning the other cheek is used a lot in the way we talk and communicate as a society, and like an idea and principle overall. But the problem with the way that we understand it and where it comes from is when you would get hit on one side of your face, as a slave, you would get backhanded, essentially, right? And when you would get punched, it was because you would hit someone that was your equal, like essentially with respect, like standing your ground. And so turning the other cheek, when you got backhanded as a slave, essentially meant standing up to fight them as an equal with fists, that you weren't just going to be hit and fall to the ground. It wasn't necessarily a comment about peace, and that came way later down the road. But the other idea, Niko, and you pointed this out really well when talking about this, is it's okay to talk about peace once the state is getting aggressed upon. And that's something that we see reflected in our foreign policy too, where the US, in this instance, the global police state, will go out and brutalize other countries with our military, which is a global police force at this point. And then when something happens and those people want to retaliate against us in a way that is much more minuscule than the larger problem, we also get these conversations around, well, why can't they be peaceful? What's the problem? So I think your idea of pointing out why is peace the first issue instead of addressing these problems is very pointed and very accurate.
Well, I mean, let's be honest, right? They're going, when those protesters went inside of Beverly Hills, bro, even myself was like, oh shit, it's getting real. Oh, I bet we about to see some change now. And I haven't said that in a while. But when you go into Beverly Hills with people who thought that they could insulate themselves with their money and their homes and their private police officers, and they don't care because the private police were nowhere to be found all of a sudden. Well, then all of a sudden, when that level of comfort is removed from you, now you want to talk about peace, which honestly is the last level of defense. Oh, you gotta be peaceful. You gotta be peaceful. But then when they have their peace removed from them, like too many have had their peace removed from them, like people have been victims of police brutality, people have dealt with these issues, they've already had their peace removed. So you won't understand why you need to be in these streets until we remove your peace also. And once that last line of defense is broken down, all of a sudden Minnesota's talking about disbanding their police department. Hopefully we get the similar results that we saw in Camden, New Jersey when they disbanded theirs and completely rethought it. Where they have now, their police department is entrenched in their communities, where now after they get off work, after the police officers are done with their day, they're going back into the communities to volunteer. And then when they go back to work, they're still talking to those same people. And they reduced the budget, they reduced the pay, they added more officers, but the officers are there legitimately to protect. That is what we need. So we need people's peace and sense of security to be broken down, the politicians' peace and sense of security to be broken down before we get the change that we have seen come in increments really over the last 100 years or so. The LBJ was a bleeding heart racist. Most of Congress, if they weren't racist, they might as well have been with their level of inaction. They were terrified that people were going to stomp Capitol Hill. They were worried. Because back then protests got violent often. You know, there were a lot of people calling for peace, but they didn't have a problem with getting jiggy. So when you get a situation where it's like, we have to pass people, or we have to desegregate, and they didn't want to, but they had to. They don't want to do police reform. They don't want criminal justice reform. But when we see what we have been seeing over the last couple of weeks, well, then we have to. Because I don't want to be the next person to be trending on Twitter. I don't want to be the next mayor to be, the front page of a newspaper because I dropped the ball. I don't want to have to be the next teacher or school board member that's fired. Even NASCAR is allowing they banned the Confederate flag, and they're allowing the only black driver to run a BLM, which is technically not a sponsor. So usually you can't do it, but they're allowing him to pay his car a BLM on it. So even NASCAR is figuring it out. Like, it isn't about what somebody wants to do when we're talking about this transition of power and equity to the people from the elite class. It is what we force them to do. I could care less about your altruism. I care about results. And so a lot of the time, the only way you can get those results is if you remove the peace and security that people feel like they have.
So this is a story, Niko, and I'd really like your opinion of it that just got shared with me. It's on Monday, a passerby noticed a man identified as Robert Fuller hanging from a tree in Palmdale, California. The fire department, who responded to the scene, determined he was dead. The Los Angeles Sheriff's Department said in a statement that the Palmdale City described it as the death alleged by suicide.
Alleged by who?
Suicide. That this gentleman climbed up in a tree in a public place and killed himself.
I mean, that's what they always say, isn't it?
And there's not a whole lot of information out about this story, but I just want to put this out there because I think that the media does a really good job at obfuscating things. And I just think that this is has the potential to be something really terrible if it sounds like what it actually is and not a suicide. So I just wanted to throw that out there and just see kind of if you had an opinion of it or if you had heard anything about Robert Fuller.
Well, let's be honest, right? The police often rule cases of lynching and it's like as of late and violence from the police, like what they did with Sandra Bland, right? It was a suicide, although it didn't make any sense whatsoever based on the facts. And so it seems like that could be the case again here. I mean, just to be real with you, I just can't see somebody who wants to commit suicide going out of their way to climb a tree. That's a lot of work, man. I feel like you got a lot of time to think about suicide. And also, I will have to hear from the parents what his state of mind was, because oftentimes there are symptoms that someone is suicidal, even if the public doesn't know. People who are involved in the personal life know. But it's just really weird that this lynching bill or anti-lynching bill comes out, and then somebody is suicided, and it looks like a lynching, right? And although I don't say I don't support the bill. Obviously, I'm anti-lynching, but also murder is already a crime, and so is hate crime. If you found out it's racially motivated, then it's a hate crime, and those are already things that we could be enforcing right now. We don't need a lynching bill, but that's where the conversation is, and then we see a young black man basically lynched, and it's called a suicide with, in my opinion, little to no reason for it to be automatically determined as suicide. What made them jump to that conclusion is what I would have to ask.
Well, it's 10 o'clock. The Free the Truth event is starting like right now. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. Can we get some final thoughts for you, Niko, and for like the 8 people who have never heard of you before, let them know where they can find you?
Yeah, man. So you can find me at the MCSC Network with Niko+House on YouTube. You can also find me on Rockfin, ROKFIN.com/Niko. And on Twitter, of course, at Niko, NIKOCS, as in Sam, F as in Frank, B as in boy. So CSFB. And, just I want to send my solidarity and, of course, positive vibes out to Assange. I know that basically he's having every, right you can consider, a right in the Western world being violated, where now he's at this point will be basically being held just because Trump is demanding it. And if they can do that to Assange, they can do that to anybody. There is no two sides here. There is no, but he helped Trump get, no, because by that logic, he wanted to help Obama get elected. And I don't think he was concerned about that either when he exposed George Bush. Assange is doing what he does. Assange tried to get information on Trump, just like I'm sure he tried to get information on the Democrats at the time whenever he was exposing George. Actually, he did expose some Democrats in the drop. So Assange is suffering because he's doing this thing that we are guaranteed the First Amendment right to do, in the UK supposedly guarantees the same right, which is journalism. And yet the country who supposedly values free speech in what we call the First Amendment the most is the country currently suppressing and punishing him for engaging in that First Amendment right that we do hold dearly. So, I just want to send my love and positive vibes out to Julian Assange. You are still an inspiration. I still try to talk about you every day in various ways. And I hope that, this vigil and other actions continue to bring us closer to seeing you back with your family.
Thank you very much for joining us, Niko. I always appreciate you having on, buddy. You can find this on Twitter at action_4 Assange. We also have Rockfin. We're at A4A. You can find us on Periscope, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, pretty much everywhere. We'd like to thank the Unity for J team for helping out and allowing us the use of their platform. I am Andrew Smith. You can find me on Twitter at Andrew Zigman. And thank you for everyone for watching.
My name's Steve Poikin, and I host a show called Slow News Day. You can find it here on the YouTube by typing Slow News Day Podcast into your search bar. I'm also on the Rockfin. And again, if you are a Patreon of Slow News Day, cancel that subscription, support me on Rockfin, It costs you about the same, but you get access to all of the other creators' premium content. It's a great way to connect with people on a growing platform, and I really hope that you get on board with that, because we're trying to kill YouTube.
Amen.
Tomorrow my guest will be Patrick Anderson. He's a writer for the Black Agenda Report and Mint Press News. We're gonna have he just launched a website related to Julian Assange. He's a philosophy professor. It's gonna be a fascinating conversation. So make sure that you're there for that. 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. My day job is caught up with my life, so I'm doing less shows, which sucks. But I'm trying to get incredibly high quality guests. So, let's keep it sort of balanced there. And I love you guys. Thank you for hanging out with us. I appreciate the hell out of you. Just mad love to the chat crew. Thank you for the super chats, Rob Juno and Kat Terrell. All of the super chats that come in on my channel are going to get rolled into the DC fundraiser, which, by the way, we have a fundraiser trying to get to Washington, DC, during the, and we're not calling it an extradition hearing anymore because we got educated on that. Julian Assange is being extraordinarily renditioned to the United States. He's not a U.S. citizen. He can't get extradited. He's not fucking from here. It's a rendition. So we're trying to stop that. We're going to DC. We're going to hold high profile events. We're going to have a lot of things going on that are going to be incredibly memorable. So for the people that have already helped us out, thank you so much. If you can't donate to the GoFundMe, please share the link. It helps tremendously. And yeah, big thanks to Niko and to the Reverend Annie. To Sleepy Josh on the 1s and 2s, and to Mean Panda for the graphics. Love you guys, and we will see you Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, and our guest will be Garland Nixon. So I'm really looking forward to that.
That's dope.
Until next time, folks, good luck to us all.